Geoff and Tammy Scorziell, thanks for making the time. Here we are at some obscure place in Zimbabwe.
I'm Tammy Scorziell. I'm married to Geoff. I'm a pastor's wife, and we live in Zimbabwe. We're missionaries here for the last 12 years.
Yep, and I'm Geoff Scorziell and do several things. I am the pastor of Bulawayo Baptist Church, as well as doing a new business up here on a farm, and an extreme coffee snob as well.
I got saved when I was 18 years old. I was in my first year of college, and for me it was just kind of, my boyfriend had cheated on me, and some friends asked me to come to church, and I said, why not? There's no reason to live, so I might as well just go to church. And at that service, I heard about Jesus, and I heard how he just wanted to be my friend, and that he had gifts to give to his friends, but only his friends could receive those gifts. And that just touched my life, and I ran forward to accept the Lord. It was that fast. And then I did backslide a little bit after that, but then I've been walking with God for 43 years.
I was third generation of a non-Christian, non-churched family. So growing up in the 60s and 70s, went the way of many people in California, which was not a great lifestyle with drugs and everything else. Even on my 17th birthday, moved out of the house. And so really had nothing to do with the Lord, and was actually even thinking the other day, I don't think I ever really met a Christian until right before I got saved. And my journey was one night, some friends and I went hiking in the mountains. And I know it sounds like a very unusual story, but we were up on the mountains, to be perfectly honest, doing cocaine, magic mushrooms, and marijuana. And God spoke to me. And it was not in a drug stupor, but that God really spoke to me and said that I needed to repent. I had no idea what that meant. But over the next few days, I actually got invited to a Bible study for the first time in my entire life, which, I have this one event on a Friday night, and then on a Tuesday night, I got invited to go to a Bible study, which is the very first time I'd ever heard anybody teach out of the Bible. And then the next night was invited to somebody's house, heard the gospel for the first time, and just completely moved my heart. And that was January 30th, 1980. And I have never looked back, and been serving the Lord now for about 43 years. Tammy's uncle was a Seventh-day Adventist, and he would go to the Philippines and do different things. And he would every year show different clips. But this one year, he was showing clips of his trip. And as he was showing his mission trip, he said people were walking up to him and pulling on him and saying, tell us about Jesus. And he didn't know. He was a dentist, and he was doing dental things there. And I remembered when he said he couldn't answer those questions, that I was so stirred. And actually, I know Tammy was too. And it was really from that moment that did feel that we just wanted to go to places where we could tell people about Jesus. And then we went to Youth with a Mission, served there, and that's what started our mission journey.
Did your family approve?
No, they didn't. In fact, in the beginning, YWAM is talking about short-term mission trips. So you just go for a little bit, you come back. So it's more like life-changing on your own. It's not like real missionaries. So we told my mom, don't worry, we're not the kind of missionaries that go to Africa. I remember very clearly telling her that. So when it started looking like we were going to become the kind of missionaries that went to Africa, she was actually very, very upset. She would not, my mom was still not a Christian then, and so she wouldn't have anything to do with supporting us, helping us get money, helping us do anything, because she didn't want us to leave. And so, yeah, she had a very, very, very hard time with us doing that. Yeah,
and my mom, on the other hand, she was very excited, but she really didn't know what that would entail. She did help us on our journey doing our mission training in schools. My dad, on the other hand, he kept waiting and wondering, is this Jesus stuff and this Christianity really real? And so it wasn't until about 5 years after walking with the Lord and a couple years on the mission field and doing that he honestly came to the conclusion he was not a Christian, but that we really did have something real happen in our life. My dad was a business man, so he started in business pretty young, never went to college or anything, and was second generation, and he did the mattress business. So from an early age, that's all we ever heard about was business, and was very good father in the beginning, but did cheat on my mom. And so at 17, he left that. When I was 17 or 16, maybe, he left the house and got remarried eventually. And so, so was not a believer, still not. And business was really his top priority in life. I'd always loved business. I started pretty young doing businesses to support different things that I was doing. But I found that it was very, very important. I had a heart for like small church things. And so the business gave the opportunity for us to do the work that God had called us to do without being a burden. So we could really focus on just doing what he wanted instead of trying to support ourselves and raise money. But on top of that, and we mean it sincerely, money was never a god for Tammy and I, and we were very, very successful in business. We were in the top 2-3% earners in America, which was, a lot, but we supported, gave money away. And so for us, it was a means to an end. It was never, ever an end in itself, and it never identified us. So when we had lots of money, we didn't change. When we lost a lot of money, we didn't change. It was just there. And like you'd said, it taught us so many skills. And so I don't know if you have a different...
Well, my take on it, because everything went really well for us for like 14 years steady. We were just increasing in what we were making. And then when God just started, he had a plan. He was trying to get us here. And so sometimes he just has to get serious in doing that. So then that just meant that we were going to be losing the business. We were going to lose our house and doing this type of stuff. And I just remember my mantra was, I praised him while I was getting it. I'm going to praise him while I'm losing it, because no matter what, he's worthy to be praised. And so truthfully, it's way easier to praise him while you're getting it, but he is worthy of praising him while you're losing it.
Yes.
And so that money was never what it was. We just enjoyed. I came on a mission trip to South Africa, and it was also the year that I was turning 50. And while we were at the church service and while they were doing the teaching, I just felt like God was just speaking to my heart and saying that every success and every failure that we have had up to our 50 years of living has prepared us to go to Zimbabwe. And that we are uniquely designed for this. And it completely takes you by surprise, because anybody who's close to 50, you start to think you're on the down. Like thing is going over. And it took me by surprise to think that our whole life up to 50 was just a preparation for what he wanted to do here in Zimbabwe. And we did not know what it was, but that was one of the life things that we've actually just taken to our heart, is that Geoff and I are uniquely designed and created, and he's sending us here to Zimbabwe. And so we did not know at that time what that would look like, what that meant. But we just take the step, and we came. I was just thinking that we owned a very large business, and all of that money went to the owners of the business and just kind of helped support us. But as I was praying that day, and as we started to feel God was leading us, I just started thinking, what would it look like, or what if we had a business that none of the money went to us, but the money was just perpetuating over and over again, and it was just a source to create residual income to be able to do outreach ministries, all along. And so, and then, so then I got involved with 2 different orphanages, and they both got land. And the orphanages, the things with orphanages is that the staff and everybody are so busy with taking care of the children, doing the schools, running all of that, but they didn't have any time or even really any interest in the self-sustainable background. And that was like yearning in me. So they both gave me their properties to try and help develop. And so I started with the chicken project on one, and what was one of the most amazing things that I found is that the local community, so mostly funds from Africa come from outside, but as you start to be faithful and your money is being used for a good reason, the local people here also want to help, but they don't want to invest in something that is silly or is not going to have a return on it. So when I first started with this chicken project, the next thing I knew is that I was business owners of giant chicken projects would come over and they would start to see what I was doing. And one of the most amazing ones was this guy came over and he looked at what I was doing, and I had like 300 chickens at a time, and I was telling him what I was doing and all my plans. And then he said, okay, this is what I'll do is I will give you 1,000 chicks, and I will upfront you the feed, and then I will actually collect the birds and slaughter them myself. And he had a proper abattoir. And then I will give you the chickens, and then you can pay me for the difference of what the chicks were and the feed was. And then you can sell those chickens, and all the money would go to the orphanage. So we did this, and we did an amazing success. When I went to go pay him for the chicks and for the feed, he says, all you owe me is a hug. And from that day on, every 6 weeks he was giving us, after we had slaughtered, he would give us the whole setup all over again. And that money generated enormously, so because then what simultaneously starts to happen here is that the local community is now becoming aware of this orphanage. It might have been in the area, but people were not really aware of it. But now that we're trying to sell a product, then people now start to be a little bit more aware, which really helps when they want to discard clothing, when they have old toys, when they have things, so it brought around a lot of different ramifications.
Yeah, and it actually generated a couple $1,000s a month. And the home was actually for orphans, but actually focused on sexually abused girls. And so to have this project where the girls were learning how to do this, raising and selling, but 100% of that money went into there, because we didn't take anything from it, but 100% of that went straight to those, to the working there. It was amazing.
And yeah.
So you've learned the secret of just starting and seeing what happens, and you find out
you
something
just
happens.
Step out.
Right.
It's really quite an adventure. And so that little project started. Then you look at orphans and you think, okay, well, now they get chicken, because meat was a big deal. I mean, one of the little jokes was, one little girl said, there's a weevil in my rice, and the lady, Debbie, she leaned over and goes, shh, don't tell anybody, because everyone will want one. And so there just wasn't any meat. These children were not eating meat, which, there's never a day, unless you're a vegetarian, but there's never a day that you don't provide, all that for your children. But these orphans, they didn't have that. So then the idea I thought, well, then they need eggs, so you go from one kind of chicken and you go to the other. So then I bought 500 baby chicks, layer chicks, which are completely different than the broiler. And my idea was I was going to put 250 on each property and do that. Well, the chicken farmer came up and said, I can't do that because the older chicken will always endanger the younger chicken, and then those will always get sick. And then your mortality rate goes up, and then there's no profit to be made. So I had to make a decision. So I already had the 1,000 birds on one property. So then I just took the 500 chicks and moved them to the other property. We took pieces and bits all around the property and just made a little fence, and we had a lean-to that we cut at the bottom. We had missionary team come over and carry it over and plant it where I wanted to have it. And so there was my roof. And we used what we had on a shoestring budget. And then that was the idea, was just to help give eggs to the children. What I wasn't prepared for was how many people wanted those eggs. And so pretty soon, out of 500, I was getting 10, 12, 15 trays a day, which was actually more than what these children really needed a day. So we started selling them, and they just sold quickly, because now you're starting to tell the story is that you buy these eggs, you're paying for the feed, and then the other eggs, the smaller eggs, are going directly to the children. People buy into that because they want to help. But in Africa, there is no money. So even the poorest of poor will eat eggs. And so then they are buying something that is enabling me to be able to generate it. So as soon as that started, then next thing I know, somebody came and said, well, I'll give you, $10,000 and you can build a chicken coop. Well, it's one thing pulling things together.
Well, it's actually even a better story than that, because the money was designated for another project here, but because they were misappropriating funds, which often happens here, we just coincidentally met up with them. And then when told them what we wanted to do, she had the money. So she says, here you go, build a chicken coop. And as long as we're using those funds for something, we did it. And when they saw the success of what was happening, people are excited to want to help. And
with that, I cannot tell you how afraid I was now that I got real money and to build a real chicken coop, because what do I know? What do I know about building anything? And I was actually just thought, I was actually kind of overwhelmed because it was so much bigger. And then right in the middle of my quiet time, I got that Deuteronomy 6:31, that I will go with you and I will never, you have to look it up. You can put it in the little side thing right here. And I was reading it out of the Amplified.
Just point it with your right finger.
But it was just to the effect that I am with you and I will never leave you and I will go before you. And, and so it just kind of gave me the confidence to just try and do it. And so then, and also I talk to everybody, so I just go around and I talk to everybody. And what was coming across is that we were trying to build cage-free chickens because that's very American and it's not done here. So I had to figure out a way how to get vertical spacing, use the coop going up. So I got the idea that I'm just going to build these tables. We'll build chicken ladders. We will put nesting boxes up there, and then we had a place for 1,000 birds. And then before I knew it, as soon as that one was done, then I would build my second one. And after building the second one, I was completely exhausted, and I shared with somebody, and I was telling them I wanted to try and help our church and do outreach programs. And so I didn't even know who I was talking to. It was just a dinner. And by the time we sat down there, at the end of that dinner, they said, I will give you $30,000 and you can build another chicken coop that'll buy the birds, that'll buy all the feed, everything that you need, and I'll give you $30,000, and all of that money.
You're talking US.
Yes. And so then that $30,000, and then all of the proceeds that I would get, because we were making about $500 to $700 a month off of each of those coops. So now the first 2 coops went to the orphanage, so they were getting between $1,000 and $1,500 a month that I was raising and giving directly to the orphanage, along top with the eggs. This third coop was supposed to be used for the Baptist Church, for our holiday clubs, for our outreach programs. And then in the middle of all of this, Geoff got the idea to start us up with the Egg a Day program, because he is a master marketer. And so, but he thought that if we would tell people in America that for $30 you can give 6 children an egg a day for a month, then we thought that we would try and do that. And so I did a little tiny video clip, and we sent that out, and I was shocked.
Well, the reason for part of that is here in Zimbabwe, children walk long distances and they don't have any food and protein. And so we wanted to find a way to be able to sell the eggs, but then also still provide. So we would get sponsors to buy the eggs so we could give these really, really poor school children at least an egg a day, so that they'd have some food in their stomachs so that they could learn. So that was the whole purpose of the Egg a Day program, and to do that. So,
and that was also because here it is very common to have 1 meal a day. So we can't even wrap our minds around that, but many people here will eat 1 meal a day, and oftentimes the youngest child will get very, very little. And the protein is that's the most expensive part of the whole meal. So if you are very, very poor, you will get mealie meal, and you can grow a green vegetable to make your sudza with it, and your dressing with it, but the protein doesn't get there. And in eggs, back then we were selling trays of eggs for $5, and so you could, to be able to give 30 children a tray of eggs, or to help 30 children get an egg that day, and so and then once you started going on that, I was in 5 schools before you knew it, and boiling eggs like you can't believe. That was my worst favorite job ever, was boiling those eggs.
And business is clearly a means to an end, but it as clearly as a gift from heaven, because they weren't shipping chickens overseas, they weren't shipping eggs overseas. You could just use your business skill as a key to open a door using what already existed, and just a little bit gears up and do something much more.
Yeah, I think that's a business principle, is start slow and build as you go. And I was very fortunate in my business back in the States when we came back. So I ended up getting to work for these 2 men that were just brilliant with marketing and business. But the one thing that they always said, profit is not a dirty word. Losing money is a dirty word. And so if you're going to do business, make sure you make money, because you can do things with that money. And so that is one of the things that has always stuck with us. And so if you build right, you build slow, you make money, and then you've got to decide what you're going to do with the money is what makes the big difference. And because we were in a position we didn't have to take that money, we want to use that money for the kingdom and to help people, and as a means, to help people, but also to bring people into the kingdom and to be able to share the gospel. When we came to Zimbabwe, we're paid a developing country or developing world or third world country salary, which is a little bit tight to live on. And so we had a missionary come over, and he shared a love that I had in that is coffee. And he goes, "You live in Africa. Why aren't you roasting your own coffee? You've got some of the best coffee in the world here." And I said, "Because I don't know how to roast." And he goes, "Well, get a popcorn popper and you can roast coffee in a popcorn popper." And I thought, oh my goodness. So I did it. I liked it, and then ended up growing in there, but realized that this coffee business could actually support us so that we weren't a drain on the church. And yeah, slowly but surely we had this, and we did have this burning desire with it that we wanted to get back and see our children and our grandchildren every year, and we couldn't expect our church to pay for us to do that. So we started a coffee business where we import coffee beans from all over the world. We roast them and we sell them to hotels and restaurants and individuals.
Game parks.
Yeah, and it ends up supporting us so that we can do all these other things and use that money strictly for the kingdom. So all of our projects, farm projects, Tammy talks about the eggs, we don't take one penny from those, but the coffee business supports us personally.
Geoff says that it takes a lot of money for me to give away money.
It takes a lot of my money so she can give away.
I just think it's the kindness of God, because we left our kids, we left our grandkids, and without that business, we would never have been able to afford to go home. And so you can never outgive God. So if you're just going to look back at our life verse, that you seek first the kingdom of God, all these other things get added unto you.
You have come here and done things here, but you've left people behind. And so we want to say thank you to those people that are behind, to say thank you so much for the donation that they've made, that sacrifice on our behalf here in Africa.